All right, says we're live on YouTube. So if anybody checks in on YouTube, just let me know. And now we can finally get started. I'm your lawyer, Patrick McGee, and I am your best friend at your worst time. Good evening, my friends and subscribers and followers. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. I missed last week completely because I had an emergency case come up a couple hours before the live stream was to start. I try to do this every Wednesday at 6 p.m. But I did make it last week because of the emergency case, and I was past midnight working on that case. So I apologize for that. I know some people did ask me where I was, and I was out helping clients, I guess you could say. So how is everybody? I hope everybody is doing very well. And our new life, our new normal, or our temporary normal, it's posed some challenges. I know it's posed some challenges for my clients. The courts in Dade and Broward and Palm Beach County are now all closed for at least the next 2 weeks. Friday, Broward and Palm Beach County closed, and then on Monday afternoon at 5:30 something, the chief judge sent out an order closing Dade County Court. And Palm Beach counties are now all closed. They are the only things that they're doing are the due process and the absolute necessities, such as arraignments, bond hearings. You can still go in and file for domestic violence injunctions, and they're still moving with dependency shelter cases and a few other cases which are, time sensitive and critical. The Florida Supreme Court last week suspended civil procedure time limits, so that affects a bunch of cases. It does affect family law cases as far as completing stuff by certain dates that are supposed to be completed. So we're working through all that. But the biggest problem I'm seeing is in family law cases. A lot of clients, because now the schools are closed, a lot of clients are having childcare issues, are having time sharing issues because, the kids are home, but the parents still have to work. And it's so far all but one case has the parties have been able to figure it out themselves and make arrangements and be agreeable. I have one case where the other side is unrepresented, and they're being very, very difficult with mom as far as changing the time sharing schedules. And we may have to do a telephonic hearing. Judges are supposedly in court. Courthouse staff is supposedly there. Judges are dealing with emergency matters. There's been some telephone conferences that have been conducted as opposed to personal appearances. In Broward County, some of the judges are trying to get on Zoom to handle the cases. I have heard of a couple of case management conference and motion calendars going through Zoom. And apparently that's been working. One of the main domestic violence judges, Judge Kaplan, is trying to get Zoom up and running for his court. So that'll make a big difference for those folks up and running. And let's see here. I'm looking for any court updates which may have changed since the last time I looked, and it looks like they're all the same. No new orders. As far as other things going on down here in Florida, we're under the social distancing, quasi-quarantine thingamajigger. Last night at midnight, yesterday was St. Patty's Day, so at midnight, the governor and all the local authorities closed all the bars, restaurants, everything like that. Where people gather, you cannot gather on the beach because apparently everybody was getting a day off on Monday and went to the beach. And there were masses and masses on the beach. So now they enacted an emergency ordinance or an executive order limiting beach activities to no more than 10 people gathering together. Restaurants can't seat people. They can do drive through and take out, but can't seat people in bars and restaurants and nightclubs. It's a very interesting time. I don't know if it's going to be our new normal. I don't know how long it's going to last, but it'll last for at least 2 weeks and maybe longer. And, I've spoken to a lot of my clients. A lot of them are really stressed out about what's going on, and that's understandable, especially when you have a case pending, a family law case or a domestic violence case or a criminal case pending, because those cases are stressful anyway, and this just adds a whole bunch more stress to them. And they're going to get through it. I tell them, hey, we've done stuff similar to this before. This is very similar to what it's like preparing in the aftermath of a hurricane, which I went through Hurricane Andrew back in 1992, and that was totally like apocalyptic after that. This isn't so bad. People are still up and about, and a lot of businesses are closed. A lot of businesses just aren't doing in-face transactions. Like I went to an auto parts place today, and the business was closed, but the employees were there. But they had a note on the door. If you bang on the door, they'll come to the door. And if they have the part, you can buy the part. You just hand your card to the door, and they'll hand you the part back. So, businesses are going, but it's up and running on a very limited schedule, I would say, for a lot of business. As far as our law office goes, we're fully remote capable. We have a lot of technology that we use because I frequently have paralegals and other attorneys that work remotely from home, so it's no big deal for us. We can carry on a full law practice remotely from any place in the world where there's an internet connection. I've actually handled cases when I was out vacationing out west in Montana and Idaho, and we've had a seamless integration for a very long time, for several years. Over this week, this is technically our third day on quarantine. Feels more like our 10th day, but technically it's our third day. Today and Monday and Tuesday, I've been spending a lot of time helping a bunch of other lawyers work through getting their firms up remotely, and helping them implement the computer technology through using Zoom and FaceTime and video hosting software, Google Hangouts, so that they can communicate with staff and they can actually have staff meetings. So we've got a few of those attorneys up and running. I'm known, by other attorneys for being fairly technically proficient and setting this stuff up. So I've helped a bunch of them set up their remote practices, and they are up and running. I've also set up remote practices for a real estate agency client of mine that I do consulting for. And so everybody seems to be, at least in my little circle, up and running to one degree or another. I'm getting a lot of questions about, what's going to happen with the case. What are we going to do? How long is this going to delay the case? Because when you get something like this where they suspend cases and they just don't hear them, it backlogs, and it backlogs quickly. And then you have to work through the stream of backlogs to eventually one day get caught up. So we're backlogged for 2 weeks. I had hearings scheduled every day, a couple times a day, sometimes every day for this week and next week. So we had about 17 hearings in that 2 week span that we had to cancel on Monday. And we didn't reset them. We didn't get solid dates for reset because nobody knows, we're presuming that courts are going to open in 2 weeks, but that's still a presumption. We don't know that for sure. As far as my cases go, I don't have any emergency matters pending before the courts, but emergency matters tend to come up very quickly. So if something does come up, we can file it and we can at least get telephone hearings. Here are the essential, if I was looking for my list of essential court proceedings that are continuing despite the closures of the courts. Now, the general public can't even get into the courthouses, but these are the only types of hearings or type of work that the courts are doing. They're doing first appearance hearings, criminal arraignments when they're necessary, motions to modify bail for people that are in custody, juvenile detention hearings, juvenile dependency shelter and arraignment hearings, termination of parental right hearings, petitions for waiver of judicial notice, hearings on petitions for appointment of an emergency temporary guardian, Ex parte injunctions, all the violence injunctions are initially ex parte. So they're hearing all those injunctions. And basically what they're doing, that process really hasn't changed. You still go down, you file for the injunction, and then they send it to the judge, and you don't go before the judge. The judge just reads them in chambers. So everything related to the filing of a domestic violence injunction, dating violence, repeat sexual violence, or stalking are all proceeding through. Ex partes for risk protection orders, that's the gun confiscation orders, the red flag orders. They're still doing that kind of stuff. They're still issuing warrants for authorizations and wiretaps. They're still doing Baker Act and Marchman Act cases, extraordinary writs, which are a whole nother that's a whole nother video in itself. And proceedings related to the state of emergency or public health emergencies and any other emergency or time-sensitive matter as determined by the judge. And like I said, you can't even get into these courthouses. To get into the courthouse for anything other than this, you have to have an individual specific order from the chief judge of that jurisdiction. So that's basically what our courts are handling, at least here in South Florida, and that's probably statewide, since the Supreme Court issued an order giving the chief judges of the various circuits the ability to implement these proceedings. And this is pretty uniform in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. So if somebody gets arrested for something and they're in custody, they will get their first appearance. I don't know if there's any delays in first appearance. I haven't picked up any criminal cases this week that were new arrests and in custody where I could make that determination whether there's any delay in the first appearance. Usually people are making the next available first appearance, and I don't know if that's changed. Maybe it's been delayed. I know there were some changes to the first appearance scheduling, and where they're doing it, they're now all doing all first appearances in Dade County, at least at the Dade County Metro Justice Building, as opposed to doing it separate for domestic violence over in the family law courthouse. And that's it. That's the court updates, the case updates. Like I said, cases only have one problem child case in family law where I'm not getting cooperation from the other side. The other parties are resolving the time sharing issues and the child care issues fairly well, considering the circumstances and the amount of stress that's going on. I've had several, clients comment to me in the last day or so about their stress levels, and I understand that this is very stressful for a lot of people, and it doesn't help with the 24-hour news cycle, and you're being inundated with the 24-hour news cycle about this stuff. And I'm not a doctor, and I don't know how serious it is, but it sounds serious to me. So if staying home keeps me healthy and keeps you healthy for at least for a while, I'm all for it until it gets totally out of control and stir crazy. Then we'll have to think of other measures or some way to relieve the stress. But I'm telling all my clients, I go, you'll make it through. Don't worry about the case. If something emergency matter comes up, we'll deal with it. But until then, it's Until then, it's just a delay in the case, and eventually it'll pick up, and your case will progress as necessary. Now, I foresee. Last week was a really busy week for cases and hearings and all kinds of stuff going on, and it was week in the law practice. And it kind of helps this week that we get some time out of court so we can actually catch up on those cases. But we should be caught up on all those cases by Friday. And then we got a couple of new cases coming in that we'll work on in the next few days. But actually, as far as times go, this is not a bad time to be filing new family law cases, because in the beginning of a family law case, unless you have some priority or some very important issues or emergency matters to deal with right away, it usually takes about a month or so for the case to get rocking and moving along anyway. So if you're considering filing for a divorce case, now might be a very good time to do it. And on that note, what I've noticed, at least in my law practice, is after the holidays, after spring break, anytime where people are together for an extended period of time, there's always an uptick in domestic violence, family law filings, criminal cases. More criminal clients come in after holidays, and when people are forced to get together. And from what I understand, that plays out nationwide and as well as in other countries. I saw an article, I was reading an article the other day about how the divorce rate in China is just going through the roof because of the coronavirus quarantines that they have, and I understand they're just coming out of those now. Close those notifications. So we're prepared for that. We're waiting for that. Like I said, we're very capable of operating remotely. My complete staff is now all working from home. Nobody's coming into the office. I'm coming in every now and then, of course, to do this live with you and to work on a few things here and there. But otherwise, I'm remotely too. I can pretty much work anywhere there's an internet connection. So that's the update on cases, update on the courts, and it's a tough time. It's a different normal for us. I'm sure it's a different normal for you. We're in a big city here in Miami. We got a couple. Well, in Dade County, we've got 2 million and something people. Broward, we got a high 1 million plus, almost 2 million there, and another million or so in Palm Beach. So in the in the metro area, in the Dade, Broward, Palm Beach metro area, we got, roughly 5 million people maybe. And it's, we're having the typical problems of any big city under such circumstances. Going to the grocery store is a real pain in the butt. For some reason, people are buying bottled water and toilet paper, and they're not able to keep those in stock. Why people are, after a hurricane, there's a run on during preparations for a hurricane, and afterward there's always a run on bottled water down here, and for some reason people are running the bottled water and stocking up on bottled water when there's been no concerns with our water supply whatsoever. And I just totally don't get the toilet paper thing. I mean, I don't know, maybe people know something that I don't know. But otherwise, as far as moving around, traffic's a lot lighter than it normally is. But just going to Walmart or BJ's or Target or Costco or any of those stores is just absolutely crazy. But otherwise, it's okay. I mean, I had court. Well, I was supposed to have court in Broward on Monday, but of course that got canceled. So Monday, Tuesday, this is Wednesday. This is my third day of not going to court, which is really strange. I really don't get a period of 3 days without court. And, I don't have to put the suit on because we don't have clients coming in. The cases that we picked up, we're all doing remote consultations, either just by phone or by Zoom or FaceTime or some type of other video conferencing software. So it's working out, and we've done that before. This is Miami. It's a very big tourist area, so we get a lot of people from out of state and out of the country that get arrested here, and they can't come back to come in for a consultation and stuff. So I have a lot of European clients in criminal cases, a lot of South American clients in criminal cases, and we all do the FaceTime and the Zoom or the Google Hangouts when we do multi-lawyer consultation with them, and it works really, really well. Like I said, I did a big conference call or conference video conference about a case last year when I was out in Montana, and we had 4 lawyers and 3 clients on. This is all related to one case. We had 4 lawyers and 3 clients on, all discussing the case on Google Hangouts, and it worked really, really well. And you can't really, as long as you have a good internet connection, it sounds like you're next door. It's pretty amazing. But my office has had that technology for a while, and we use it. We can all access our client management, our case management software remotely. We can access our documents remotely. So it's pretty good. Office 365 is pretty good for that too. When we get on, 2 or 3 of us can get on and do a document and edit it in live time in front of everybody. So that's working for us. One of the things that we are doing, since the process of getting to court is going to be difficult enough, If you have a case where you need to file some type of domestic violence injunction or any of the violence injunctions, we are assisting clients and we're writing the petitions for them so they can take the petitions to court when they go and just turn it over to them instead of sitting there with somebody and going through the whole story with them face to face. They can basically just drop it off, get it stamped in, sent to the judge, and just wait for a phone call on the status of the temporary injunction. And we've done 3 of those already, and that's really helping out the clients in that area. And they're, it's working well, and I wasn't sure how it would work. But this is a good time, for the courts. Hopefully they'll use this time and they'll get technology on board so we can start doing some of these hearings online. Like, there's no reason why we can't do 5-minute motion calendars online through Zoom or something. And instead of driving all the way down to the courthouse, waiting 20, 30 minutes for your 5-minute motion calendar and then driving all the way back. So hopefully that'll be one of the benefits that come out of this. So that's about it as far as the case updates go. I mean, this is how life is going to be, but I know we'll make it through. If you get too stressed out, you get all worried about your cases or other things in life, just remember you've made it this far, and you'll make it through this, whatever it is, whatever it turns out to be. Let me go through and look and see if I had any questions. There's a bunch of activities, so let me see if I had any questions come in that I missed. Jesus Christ is your best friend all the time. Yes, he is. Let's see. DC, I think that's the last one I saw. Glad to see you. Hey, Thomas, how are you? Yeah, I'm doing well here. I mean, the quarantine, it's more of an inconvenience than anything. SpaceX has released, I think, 8 new satellites for internet service. They're transitioning out. Yeah, I saw something about that. I think it was like 60 satellites, wasn't it? But I saw that they had some new internet satellites go up. The Chose Boy, I had an earthquake out in Utah. I heard there was an earthquake in Utah. I'm guessing that's where you're referring to. Yeah, hopefully this virus dies off soon. All right, what if a prisoner has Purple Julio asks, what if a prisoner has the coronavirus? How will he be treated? He'll probably be quarantined or put in, not solitary, but I mean, he'll be separate. I'm sure he'll be separated from the other prisoners and stuff. Prisons, I could see, disease spreads fast through prisons. I mean, if you look through history, like the Civil War times and the medieval times, whenever they had prison camp, even Vietnam and World War II, whenever they had prison camps with large quantities of people in it, disease spreads rapidly through places like that. So they'll have to keep that under control. Couldn't you do FaceTime appearances with the court officials, and a FaceTime your client? Well, what they're trying to do is I do FaceTime with my clients because a lot of my clients follow me on my my Facebook group, which is Ask a Florida Divorce Lawyer, as well as my Facebook page, which is the Law Offices of Patrick McGeehan. And those clients that follow me there, I do FaceTime with. And then we do Zoom. And then we do, I'm sorry, not FaceTime, whatever it is, the video conferencing software through there. But yeah, anybody that has FaceTime capability, we're doing consultations that way. Zoom with court, Google Hangouts with staff. All right, Georgia's Chief Justice issued a judicial emergency order a few days ago. Yeah, we had ours on, I think it was Friday, the Chief Justice issued. Only cases concerning life, liberty, like emergency restraining orders, are to be heard. Yeah, that's the same thing we're doing down here in Florida. Pretty much. All right, wait. 3 days off, huh? Does it feel like you're getting fired from a job you own? Yeah, work seasonal before. I mean, the last 3 days, Monday and Tuesday, were really busy because I was having a lot of other lawyers call me to help them get up running remotely. So we were helping them, do that stuff. My IT guy, I sent my IT guy over to a couple guys to get their laptop set up with the proper software to run Zoom and Google Hangouts and all that stuff, and show them how to do it. So it was pretty busy. Today was like semi busy. Today was like more like a day in the office that we didn't have court, and I came in and I did a bunch of work today, and was going back and forth with the paralegals and the other lawyers on some cases today. All right, going out for work. I'll hop on when I see. All right. Joys of being American. Get on whenever you can. Cool on the FaceTime option. Yeah, FaceTime works really well. I mean, when you have a good internet connection. I mean, there's lots of places, especially in buildings where it doesn't seem to work so well and the video becomes choppy. So not so bad when you have a good internet. I just happen to have a really good, in this office, I happen to have a really, really good internet service, and it's never let me down. I used to have Uverse, and it was terrible. It was constantly crashing. But I have a service through the FPL now that is, I don't think it's ever crashed or gone out in the 3 or 4 years that I've had it here. It's really quick. It's when you do the FaceTime, it's just like just like you were directly connected through the phone or something like that, even though you are, but you're a distance apart. Because I've done FaceTime on cellular and it gets a little choppy, but with this, it doesn't seem to get choppy at all. It seems to work really, really well. Let's see, what else can I tell you about what's going on here? The beaches are open in South Florida. Let me adjust this a little bit because I look like I'm too far up. The beaches are open in South Florida. You just can't have a group of 10 or more people together. Some places I heard it was 5, but I think Miami Beach is 10. And then on Monday, either Sunday or Monday, the mayor of Miami Beach and the mayor of Fort Lauderdale got together and they declared spring break over with. They were having a bunch of problems on Miami Beach anyway. During spring break, they had a couple shootings and a couple of videos that went viral about arrests and stuff like that, and things getting crazy over there. Whenever there's like a beach day, like spring break, Memorial Day, Labor Day, that are big beach days, they always have some problem over on Miami Beach with craziness going on over there. All right, looks like we're caught up. We're caught up everywhere. Let's check in, see if our YouTube is still working. Anyway, if this progresses on, it'll give me more time. I'm going to, give me more time to get on here and hopefully go live with you. Maybe I do it a couple times a week. I'm going to try to go live on my Facebook group, which is Ask a Florida Divorce Lawyer, for my clients there, because I'm getting a lot of questions about, what's going on with cases. I'm getting a lot of questions on purchasing guns for some reason, like out of the blue. Like I get a lot of gun questions in general. I guess it's because I used to be a policeman and I'm a lawyer, and I'm knowledgeable about the gun laws here in Florida, and I do a lot of gun crime cases, so I get a lot of questions on guns. A lot of people are calling me that are first-time gun buyers, and they don't understand how the process works of purchasing a gun. I had one lady call me the other day she was all up in arms because she thought you could just get on the internet, order a gun, and they would like mail it to your house. And she found out that wasn't correct. And I'm getting a lot of those questions about why do I have to wait 3 days, or in Broward County, why do I have to wait 5 days before I can pick up my gun? How long does it take to get a concealed weapons permit? All that kind of stuff. And yeah, that's the reality of it. You can buy a gun on the internet from some type of retailer or distributor, but the way that system works is you buy the gun from the people on the internet, the retailer or the distributor. You pay them, their portion. They ship it to a federally licensed firearm dealer, a local gun shop. Then you have to go into the local gun shop and, pay the balance, or if you paid the retailer or the distributor the full balance, then when you go into the gun shop, you have to pay a transfer fee. Most gun shops will transfer for like between $15 and $25, and then you have to pay the $5 for the background check. You can't buy a gun from a retailer or a distributor without going through a federally licensed firearm dealer and doing the background check and paying the fees for those. That has to be the way it is. The only way you can not do the background check or the transfer fee is if you buy it from a private individual. Like if I buy a gun from my neighbor, we don't have to go to the gun store and do a background check. I could just pay him the money, he hands me the gun. But you have to make sure, anybody you sell a gun to, you have to make sure that they are eligible to own a gun. So you always ask them, have you ever been arrested? Do you ever had a domestic violence injunction against you or anything like that? And that's the way, gun purchases work. That's the synopsis of the way they work. There's a lot of stuff on the news about gun show loopholes and being able to buy a gun on the internet. And there's a lot of people are finding out. I was surprised at the calls I'm getting on that. As a lot of people are finding out you just can't go and buy a gun on the internet and have it mailed to your house, or you can't just go to a gun store and put down your $500 and walk out with a gun unless you have a concealed weapons permit, and you still have to pass the background check. The gun show loophole that you hear a lot about on the news and stuff it's not really a loophole, it just doesn't apply. It applies to the transfer of personal property. If you go to a gun show and you're buying a gun from a dealer, you still have to go through the background check and you have to pay the background check fee. But if somebody is at the gun show and they're a private party and they're selling their personal firearm, the face-to-face transaction and the transfer of personal property does not have to go through a background check. And that applies to anywhere, whether it's at a gun show, at a parking lot, in Walmart, or at your front door. All right, I saw something about New York here. So dang, in New York, I can't just buy from your neighbor, but then again, and New York has some of the strictest gun laws there are. New York, California, New Jersey, New Hampshire, I think it is, Illinois, they all have really strict gun laws. I don't think you can, the process is crazy in New York to even get a weapons permit, much less to buy an actual weapon. There used to be a lot of gun stores in New York in the downtown area near Little Italy and Chinatown. As a matter of fact, one of the best custom gun modifiers and that made custom rigs was right in Little Italy there, Giacchino Enterprises, and they were back in the 70s and 80s. They were like the big dogs in modifying competition firearms and stuff like that. But there was one gun store that I went into when I was in New York City, and it was down in Chinatown, and it was a police supply and gun store. And I went in there, and they had the uniforms and stuff like that. But as far as guns, I think they had 3 guns, and they were all revolvers, and they were all old departmental issue revolvers, and you couldn't even buy one. So I don't even know where you would go to buy a gun in New York. So New York's real restrictive. California is similarly restrictive, and I saw a lot of stuff in the news about people trying to buy guns in California, actual lines out the door and around the corner at gun stores, and people were shocked at all the requirements you have to go through to buy a purchase. Okay, Thomas asked, are the requirements for a rifle the same as for a pistol in Florida? Yeah. They are now. They didn't used to be. You had to be 21 to buy a pistol and only 18 to buy a long gun, but now you have to be 21 to buy anything. The way it works in Florida is there's I think it's a 3-day waiting period if you don't have a concealed weapons license, but the counties can make it up to a 5-day waiting period. So if you can go to any county, as long as you're a Florida resident, you can go to any county and buy a gun. If you don't have your concealed weapons permit, you can come back in 3 days and pick it up. In Broward County, it's 5 days. Broward has a longer issuing. If you have a concealed weapons permit, you can go in. They still do the background check. They still fill out the ATF form, and you pay the background check fee, and you can walk out with your gun as long as you pass the background check. All right. Although the concealed carry permit is recognized in a lot of other states, to my understanding, Honda Tech, there is reciprocity between states and concealed weapons permits, but only certain states. Like California, the only concealed carry license California recognizes is California. You can't carry a gun in California from another state with a concealed weapons permit from another state. I think it's the same for New York and New Jersey. And like Florida has reciprocity with Georgia. So if you have a Florida concealed carry permit, you can carry it in Georgia and a bunch of other states. And there's websites that'll tell you there's a reciprocity map, which will tell you all the states that have reciprocity. That doesn't apply to me because I was a former police officer and I have a federal permit to carry a firearm. So I can carry a firearm in any state. I've carried a firearm in New York City, in Los Angeles, and in Chicago. As long as you abide by what the local regulations are as far as carrying a gun, you can carry a gun. So, I've gone to New Jersey. I've gone back and forth on the PATH train between New York and New Jersey and all around Manhattan and Long Island and Brooklyn, and all the way out to Coney Island and stuff, carrying a firearm. And because I have this federal permit, I can do that. And I've never even been stopped. But if I get stopped, you just show them the federal permit. You show them the permit when you get off the plane. If you get off at like JFK or LaGuardia, the Port Authority guy comes in when you claim your firearm. Port Authority guy comes in, you show him your permit, and he signs off on it. Your federal permit, not a state permit. State permits are totally different. Though it's recognized in a lot of other states. Okay, I already answered that. A Canadian-made Marlin. Send me a picture of that. I'd like to see that. I think everybody has a waiting period on firearms nowadays. It used to be when I first became a policeman in 1987. I could go in any gun store, buy a gun, and walk out with it. There was no background checks or permit required. I had to have my police ID, but as long as I had that, you could just walk in and walk out with it. Okay, so probably Honda Tech asks, so probably should check with states I'd be traveling through. Yes, check with the states you're traveling through. When it comes to NFA items like National Firearms Act, short barrel shotguns, short barrel rifles, don't do interstate travel with those unless you're very knowledgeable about what the laws are. There's a whole lot of restrictions on transferring NFA items between state lines, and sometimes it's even prohibited. Like I could travel from here to Georgia with my Glock, and it's not a problem as long as there's reciprocity. But just make sure whatever state you're traveling to has reciprocity with your state, and then look at the states you're traveling through. If the states you're traveling through do not have reciprocity, look for the storage and transportation requirements for those states. Because what a lot of people, and this happens in New Jersey a lot of people are coming from, Maine or whatever, or, Pennsylvania or whatever, and they travel through New Jersey, coming into Virginia and some other state, and they get stopped as they're traveling through New Jersey, and they get jacked in the transportation. Either they're not properly transporting the firearm, they have hollow point ammunition or something like that, which is not allowed in New Jersey, and they end up getting jacked on that. And other permits don't work in New Jersey, from what I understand. Always check with the state you're traveling through. Can civilians get a federal permit? You can only get the federal permit, like the one I have, is if you've been a police officer. Some military positions, you have to have been a police officer for 10 years, retired honorably, and that makes you eligible. And you have to go back every year and qualify and get a new permit issued and signed by, in my case, the director of the Miami-Dade Police Department. So regular civilians can't get the federal permit, the type that I have. It's only available to police officer, military, I think judges, and some other classifications. But my main concern is the police officer thing. And every year, 4 or 5 times a year, my department, the Miami-Dade Police Department, puts on an annual retirement. 4 or 5 times a year, they put on annual retired officers qualifications, where you go out and you shoot the qualification course, they sign off on it, and you get the new permit. All right. Doesn't trade and forego a waiting period in Florida? Yeah, I think there is. I think if you're trading one gun for another, when you're going through a dealer, there's a section that deals with that. I haven't dealt with that in any cases, and usually if it's outside the purview of cases that I'm handling, I don't research it, but I do remember something like that. We can look that up. But I think when you're trading in, because, and the theory behind it is because you already have a firearm, and you've already passed. Actually, in my personal opinion, and I've heard this, nobody's ever filed suit on this before, but in my opinion, my interpretation of the law, once you pass the background check for the concealed weapons permit, you shouldn't have to have another background check each time you buy a gun, because you've already passed that initial background check. And they keep, supposedly the Department of Agriculture keeps up on that, because if you have a concealed weapons permit and you get a domestic violence injunction or something like that entered against you, they're going to send you a letter terminating or canceling or suspending your concealed weapons permit. But this retaking of the background check every time you go to buy a new firearm, I don't think that's 100% legal under the way the law is written. It's kind of like, is the lower receiver on AR-15 an actual firearm subject to the National Firearms Act and all that stuff? There's some case law that says no, it's not. And I'm always happy to answer questions. I do a lot of gun cases, a lot of gun criminal cases. So, as far as possession of firearms in the state of Florida, I'm fairly knowledgeable about. In Florida, you could basically, you can carry any type of gun, any type of ammunition, any type of magazine size. There's really no restrictions on it in our state. We're still pretty much a free state. We're not the freest state, but we are pretty much a free state as far as firearms go. And since I used to be a policeman, I am a firearms instructor. I used to be a police firearms instructor also. I'm now an NRA instructor. I don't teach a whole lot, but I do a lot of the legal portion of courses for other instructors that put on the course. So if you have any firearms questions, feel free to ask. I handle 3 major areas of law, which is criminal law, family law, including domestic violence, and personal injury, as long as it's a car accident. Slip and falls I don't do. I only do car accidents when it comes to personal injury. And I welcome you to follow me on my other social media platforms. I'm on Instagram as the Magic City Lawyer. I'm on TikTok as the Magic City Lawyer. I'm on YouTube on Snapchat as Magic City Lawyer, Tumblr. I'm on Twitter as at PJ McGeehan Law. And I have one Facebook group and one Facebook page. The Facebook group is Ask a Florida Divorce Lawyer, and the Facebook page is the Law Offices of Patrick McGeehan. I welcome you all to follow me there. I provide, I have daily content coming out. It's a little slow now because I usually have at least one video a day coming out. It's a little bit slower now because I'm not going back and forth to court and making those videos and getting all those good stories to relate to you from inside the courtroom. But, we'll pick that back up. And I'm sure in no time flat. Any questions that come in those areas of law, I can usually answer them for you. Either email me, patrick@pjmlawyer.com, or, contact me through one of the platforms, through direct message, DMs, or, text messenger, or whatever it is on Facebook. And I'm happy to answer those questions. If you have another area of law which you have issues with, or you need a referral to a lawyer that does like real estate or something like that in South Florida, let me know, and I can usually refer you to somebody that I know that does those types of areas. As far as my practice geographically, I do Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. Every now and then I'll take a case down in the Keys. I'll do a personal injury case if it's statewide, if it's, a commercial vehicle or some type of massive case with massive injuries. Most of the personal injury cases I do involve very serious injuries where people are disabled for the rest of their lives are crippled or going to need care for the rest of their lives, or it involves a death. And I do those cases because when I was a police officer, I was also a homicide detective, and I had a little bit of a specialty. I actually had a pretty big specialty in the area of traffic accident reconstruction and traffic death cases. So that's why, I handle those types of cases, because of the experience. And I dealt with a lot of lawyers handling those cases, and I saw how they handled them, and I wanted to handle them better, I guess, for my clients than the way they handled them. So that's part of the motivation for that. Like I said, I try to get on here every Wednesday at 6 o'clock. I'll probably be getting on maybe twice a week. I don't know what the other day is going to be while this quarantine thing is going through. I'm also going to be getting on, going live on my Facebook group page, Ask a Florida Divorce Lawyer, to help those clients. I get a lot of questions through that page or through that group. So I'm going to help those followers there and those members there with their cases as they're moving along. And it's pretty, family law is pretty uniform throughout the state, no matter what county or what circuit you're in. There's a couple local rules and a couple unique quirks here and there in different jurisdictions, but as far as the main stuff, it's all uniform throughout the state. So, and then all the forms are the same. Everybody uses the same forms that are provided for. A lot of people go down to the courthouse and buy them, but all those forms are online. You can get them for absolutely free. And if you need the link for those, I'll be happy to send it to you. So if there's no more questions, let's see. Gerald Russell asks, can a felon legally have an antique firearm in Florida? There's a thing there in the descriptions or in the classifications between antique and firearm. A felon cannot have a firearm, but some antique firearms are not considered firearms. If you get if you get my drift. And I don't know what the offhand. I don't remember what the classification is on antique firearms other than the age, but I know like Civil War flintlock pistols and rifles and stuff like that are not classified as firearms. They're classified as relics, because there's relics and then there's firearms. Like an AR-15 and a Glock is classified as a firearm. Those are not classified as firearms. Black powder is not classified as a firearm. You can go in the Bass Pro Shops, buy a brand new 50 caliber black powdered rifle without a permit, without a concealed weapons permit, without filling out the 4473, without the background check, and walk out the front door with it, because it's not classified as a firearm under that statute. And that's like, if you read the federal statute on the description of a firearm, and you look at an AR-15 lower receiver, does an AR-15 lower receiver match the description in the federal statute of a firearm? There's a big argument, and there's a big push, especially out in the western states, that it is not technically a firearm. And there's been a couple cases where judges have agreed upon that. So that'll be an interesting development in firearms law that comes up. Big Man Sprinter Van, what's up? You living in the van down by the river? I hope so. I follow a bunch of RVers on YouTube, a bunch of overlanders on YouTube, and we have a little overlander group here in Florida, and a bunch of those guys have Sprinter vans that are fairly decked out, pretty bad. All right, so that looks like it. I've covered everything I wanted to cover. I think I got everybody's questions in. Ohio is pretty lenient. I understand Ohio is pretty lenient. I've heard that too. There's a guy on YouTube that is a gun lawyer in Ohio. Let me see if I can find his username here. That gives out, I follow his page. He gives out a lot of good information on gun laws in Ohio. Let me see if I can find him real quick. My subscription list here. He is the gun lawyer, Munitions Law Group, Cheshire, the Bros PC. Let me go in and see. And he puts out a lot of content on Ohio gun laws. And he is located in He is located in Columbus, Ohio. So if you want to subscribe to him, he deals a lot and he gives out a lot of information on Ohio gun laws. All right, so it's your business fan. All right, it's good to be retired. All right, Thomas asks, is that just black powder? Black powder, or is there a date? I think there's a date for antique and relics, but there's no date for black powder. Like if you want to buy a brand new Bone Crusher 50 cal black powder, you can go in Bass Pro Shops and buy it right now and walk out the door with it. I'm doing good, Sprinter Van. Doing good. We're just wrapping up. You got in a little late. Who's from Columbus, Ohio? We were talking about Ohio gun laws very briefly. Somebody said they were pretty lenient, and I was referring them to a guy on YouTube called The Gun Lawyer, and he's in Columbus, Ohio, and he puts out a lot of information on YouTube about Ohio gun laws, and I follow him on there, and we have conversations back and forth every now and then. But he's real knowledgeable about the Ohio gun laws, and his office is in Columbus. All right, I think I got everybody there. Let's go back over to YouTube, see if there's anybody missing there. Any questions come up there? Nobody's asking me any questions on YouTube. It's only TikTok. My TikTok followers are the best. Anyway, I appreciate all you guys checking in here on TikTok and the couple that I do have on YouTube. I really enjoy getting on here and doing this with you and answering any questions that I can. Whether it's family law, criminal, or personal injury related. If you have any questions, you have any topics on the platforms, and I'll be happy to do. If it's a big topic, I can do a whole video about it and upload it here, and we can have an exchange on it. And any other ideas you have for the live shows, and this is also going over after I do this. It'll be sent over to be a podcast as well as it'll be posted on YouTube and all of my social media platforms. So if you subscribe to me on all the others, all the links will be down in the description below for all the other platforms I'm on. And feel free to follow me there. I'm most humbled that you came and joined me today. I try to do this every Wednesday at 6 p.m. I didn't make it last week because I had an emergency case come in, but otherwise every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Barring any emergencies, I will be in here with you, and it's always a pleasure to speak with you, and I'm very humbled that you come in and actually interact with me. I think this is great. Thank you very much. Stay safe. Don't get stressed out. Don't watch too much news. Don't let the 24-hour news cycle bombard your life. Make sure you take time out for yourself. De-stress. Enjoy life. Work on your side hustles if you have downtime during this, whatever it is, whether this is our new normal or a temporary normal. Hopefully it'll all be back together and the way it was soon. All right, good night. Be safe. Be healthy.